Good evening. February 1519, Hernan Cortes of Spain invades Mexico. August 13, 1521, 2.5 years later, Tenochtitlan and the great Mexica Azteca Empire came to an end. If you were educated in the Americas, you were taught that Cortes was accompanied by 11 ships, 13 horses, 500 soldiers, and a small number of cannon, and that the indigenous believed the Spanish to be gods. What we are not taught is that this was the third expedition from Spain. Previous expeditions also had ships, horses, soldiers, and cannons, but the indigenous did not believe the Spaniards were gods. Those previous expeditions were annihilated by indigenous armies in the Yucatan, and one of the two survivors of that expedition became Cortes' first interpreter. The other stayed an indigenous military leader of an indigenous army, and his children are the first mestizos. We were also not taught that Cortes had hundreds of thousands of indigenous allies from Mesoamerica, which helped him overthrow the Mexica Azteca Empire. Within the first few decades of Europeans landing in the Americas, conservative estimates are that 90% of the indigenous population lost their lives to diseases which they had no immunities for, to betrayal, brutality, greed, violence, warfare, to genocide. Roughly 60 to 80 million people lost their lives. The legacy left to us by the Mexica Azteca Empire are 530 pictorial histories, which teaches us of their customs and culture. The longest one of these histories is 2,400 pages long. Misa Azteca, the piece we will be experiencing this evening, is based on indigenous rhythms left to us by some of the original inhabitants of Mesoamerica, as well as 91 Nahuatl poems, collectively known as the Cantares Mexicanos, left to us by the Mexica Azteca, Franciscans, Dominicans, and Augustinians. And while our ancestors might not be personally responsible for what happened in the Americas, we need to know so that we may educate ourselves, our children, our grandchildren, our friends, and our neighbors, so that genocide, so that atrocities never happen again to anyone, anywhere in our world. We are here, aquí y ahora. Some 500 years later, the Mexica Azteca and their descendants have survived and continue to resonate in present time through language, art, dance, food, instruments, music, and thought. Some identify others by the color of their skin, by the color of their hair, by the color of their eyes, or by their culture, their economic status, their ethnicity, their gender, their politics, their religion, or their spirituality. And forget that we are all human beings, and that we each share a common pulse, and that no matter what we call ourselves or how we identify ourselves, we each share 270 days of rhythmic training in our mother's womb. Before our feet touch this earth, this is the pulse of our lives. But so many get caught up in the rhythms of our lives that we lose track of this pulse. What we think, what we know, what we experience and understand does not matter. But what we do with what we think, what we do with what we know, what we do with our experiences and understanding can change the world. There have been atrocities in the last 2 weeks that we have suffered as humanity that should never happen, that should never happen again. May we continue to live our lives with intention, with intensity, with integrity, with sincerity, passion, and balance. The kingdom of heaven is spread upon the earth, but men do not see it. May we open our hearts, our minds, our eyes before our time runs out. Viva la Vida!